There is a strange kind of person in this world, someone who doesn't panic when everything falls apart, someone whose pulse doesn't race at disorder, but instead slows into focus, someone who doesn't run from chaos, but quietly leans into it, almost as if their nervous system recognizes it the way a traveler recognizes home, and these people rarely announce themselves loudly. They're not always reckless thrill seekers or obvious troublemakers. Sometimes they look perfectly calm on the surface, organized even. Yet beneath that calm exists a mind that feels most alive when life becomes unstable, when rules break, when certainty dissolves, when plans collapse and something unpredictable takes its place. And the most unsettling truth is that many of them don't even realize they love chaos. They just feel drawn to messy relationships, unstable careers, emotional roller coasters, toxic conflicts, dramatic friendships, high-risk decisions, and constant crises, without understanding why peace feels so uncomfortable to them, why silence makes them restless, why stability feels suffocating instead of safe. And this begins very early in life, long before conscious choice. Often in childhood environments filled with emotional unpredictability, loud arguments, sudden mood swings, inconsistent parenting, or constant insecurity, because when a child grows up in chaos, their brain adapts to survive. Its stress becomes normal, alertness becomes a baseline, calm becomes unfamiliar, and over time, the nervous system wires itself to expect danger as default, to treat unpredictability as routine, and to associate calm not with safety, but with the tense silence before the storm. And so later in life, when everything finally becomes quiet, when life becomes stable, when there are no emotional fires to put out, their body doesn't relax. It becomes uneasy, bored, suspicious, as if something must be wrong because nothing is wrong. And so, without realizing it, they recreate the conditions their brain understands. They provoke arguments, choose unstable partners, sabotage peaceful moments, chase risky situations, not because they consciously want destruction, but because chaos feels emotionally familiar. And familiarity feels like safety, even when it hurts. And this is where the hidden psychology begins. Because from the outside, these people look impulsive, dramatic, self-destructive, addicted to trouble. But from the inside, what they are really chasing is regulation. A strange form of emotional balance that only exists for them inside unpredictable intensity. And when things become too calm, they feel emotionally numb, disconnected, empty, as if life loses its color without the sharp edges of disorder. And so they move toward conflict the way others move toward comfort. They step into danger the way others step into security. They lean into uncertainty the way others lean into assurance. And the irony is that many of them deeply wish for peace. They talk about wanting stability, healthy relationships, calm routines. But when those things arrive, something inside them starts to itch, to resist, to push away what they thought they wanted. Because peace requires emotional stillness, and stillness feels foreign, almost threatening, to a nervous system raised on alarm. And over time, this creates a painful cycle of self-betrayal, where they unconsciously destroy the very stability they consciously crave. Blaming fate, blaming bad luck, blaming other people, never realizing that the pattern is being driven by a nervous system addicted to emotional intensity. And this addiction is real because chaos releases adrenaline, cortisol, dopamine, powerful neurochemicals that create focus, urgency, and emotional sharpness. And for some brains, especially those shaped by early instability, these chemicals become the main way they feel alive. Meaning that calm doesn't just feel boring, it feels empty, like emotional starvation. And this is why some people drift from crisis to crisis, relationship to relationship, problem to problem. Not because they enjoy suffering, but because their body only feels awake in turmoil. And the most tragic part is that many of them are not aware of this mechanism at all. They simply say things like, "I don't know why this keeps happening to me. I always end up in complicated situations. Peace just doesn't last in my life," not realizing that chaos has become not their enemy, but their emotional comfort zone. And until this is understood, the cycle continues, repeating across years, across jobs, friendships, marriages, cities, never breaking, because the subconscious keeps seeking what it knows, even when what it knows is destruction. And this is only the surface of the psychology, because once chaos becomes familiar, it doesn't only shape your choices, it reshapes your identity, your relationships, your ambitions, your self-image, and the way you define what it even means to feel alive. To understand why some people truly feel at home in chaos, you have to understand how the brain confuses familiarity with safety. Because the brain's primary job is not happiness, not success, not peace. Its only job is survival, and survival is based on pattern recognition. Meaning the brain learns what is predictable and then treats that predictability as safe, regardless of whether it is actually healthy or destructive. And so when someone grows up in emotional disorder, instability becomes predictable, and predictability becomes safety, and safety becomes what the brain constantly seeks, even if it harms the person's future. And this is why people who love chaos are often drawn to partners who are emotionally unavailable, explosive, controlling, or unstable, because those traits mirror early patterns their nervous system learned to navigate. And while others see obvious red flags, the chaos-oriented mind feels an unconscious pull toward that familiar emotional terrain, mistaking it for attraction, passion, or destiny. And when the relationship becomes dramatic, intense, and exhausting, their body enters a biochemical state that feels strangely natural. Heightened awareness, emotional spikes, constant vigilance, all patterns their nervous system already knows how to survive. And when someone finally offers them genuine stability, kindness, consistency, and emotional safety, the chaos-drained brain feels confused, overstimulated by calm, bored by predictability, suspicious of peace, because peace demands the person to sit with their own emotions without distraction. And for someone who used chaos as emotional regulation, this is terrifying, because stillness brings unresolved pain to the surface. Childhood wounds, suppressed fear, unprocessed grief, and emotional emptiness they have learned to avoid through constant stimulation. And so stability doesn't feel comforting to them. It feels exposing, like standing alone in a silent room with nothing to fight, nothing to fix, nothing to distract from inner noise. And over time, their mind begins to associate peace with vulnerability and chaos with protection, even though logically it makes no sense. And this inversion of emotional meaning is what traps so many people in cycles of self-sabotage, where they leave good situations for bad ones, abandon healthy routines for destructive habits, destroy calm in search of emotional intensity, because chaos doesn't require inner work. Chaos keeps the attention outward on problems, conflicts, crises, giving the illusion of purpose without the discomfort of healing. And this extends beyond relationships into careers, where some people unconsciously sabotage success the moment stability arrives, missing deadlines when things become routine, creating workplace conflict where none existed, switching paths the moment things become predictable, because in stability they feel invisible to themselves, whereas in chaos they feel important, needed, alive. And this creates a deep psychological identity where suffering becomes intertwined with self-worth, where feeling stressed becomes equated with being valuable, where being overwhelmed becomes proof of purpose, and rest becomes guilt instead of relief. And this is why many chaos-oriented people feel deeply uncomfortable during vacations, quiet weekends, or peaceful phases of life. Because without external turmoil, their internal discomfort becomes impossible to ignore. Or attached to conflict, training the child's brain to associate emotional bonding with tension rather than safety. And later in life, this pattern repeats itself unconsciously through attraction, habits, and decisions that recreate emotional intensity. And this internal discomfort often traces back to early emotional neglect, inconsistent care, or environments where love was conditional, unpredictable. Peace is something that happens to others, but not to them. They develop a quiet fatalism, a belief that their life is simply meant to be difficult, dramatic, unstable. And that belief slowly becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, shaping every choice they make without their awareness. Because when the brain expects chaos, it prepares for chaos. It looks for chaos. It interprets neutral situations as threatening. It finds tension where none exists. And it reacts in ways that create the very instability it fears losing. And so the cycle tightens, not through conscious desire for destruction, but through unconscious loyalty to emotional patterns built in childhood. And until those patterns are brought into conscious awareness, chaos continues to feel like home. Not because it is safe, but because it is known. The most dangerous part of loving chaos is not the chaos itself. It is the illusion that chaos is who you are. That this pattern is your personality, your destiny, your nature. When in reality, it is a learned survival response that once kept you emotionally alive, but now quietly keeps you trapped. And the moment someone begins to see that their attraction to chaos is not identity but wiring, something powerful begins to happen. Because what is wired can be rewired, though not icily, not quickly, and never without discomfort. Since choosing peace after a lifetime of emotional turbulence feels unnatural at first. Like stepping onto solid ground after living at sea for decades, your balance feels wrong. Your body resists. Your mind craves the old motion. And this is where most people fail in healing. Because they interpret the discomfort of stability as proof that stability is wrong for them, instead of seeing it as withdrawal from emotional addiction. And yes, it is an addiction in the neurological sense. The brain has associated intensity with aliveness, stress with meaning, disorder with familiarity. And so when life becomes calm, dopamine drops, adrenaline drops, cortisol drops, and the person feels flat, bored, restless, disconnected, not because peace is empty, but because their brain has not yet learned how to feel alive without crisis. And this is why early attempts at healthy relationships, routines, or boundaries often fail, because the person unconsciously creates tension just to feel something again, to reignite the emotional chemical cocktail that chaos provides. And the true work of breaking this addiction begins not with forcing calm, but with learning how to tolerate it, how to sit in stillness without running, how to allow boredom without interpreting it as meaninglessness, how to witness peace without sabotaging it. And this requires awareness so sharp that the person begins catching themselves in the moment of attraction to drama, recognizing the familiar pull, the inner urge to stir conflict, to re-enter familiar emotional storms. And instead of acting on that impulse, they pause. And in that pause is where transformation begins. Because they start teaching their nervous system a new pattern, that safety can exist without constant threat, that connection can exist without conflict, that excitement can exist without destruction. And this retraining is slow, because the body resists what it does not recognize as familiar, even when it is healthy. And the person may feel anxious in calm situations, at first suspicious when nothing is wrong, restless when routines become stable, and those feelings must be endured without being obeyed, because every time peace is endured rather than sabotaged, the brain rewires a little more slowly, expanding the definition of what feels normal. And this also requires grieving, because to heal from chaos is to grieve the identity built around survival, the strength forged in struggle, the meaning attached to suffering, and for many people chaos became proof of resilience, proof of worth, proof of importance, and letting go of that narrative feels like losing a piece of self. And yet what waits on the other side of that grief is something far rarer than excitement, something quieter but deeper. A nervous system that no longer needs constant crisis to feel alive. A mind that can experience peace without suspicion. Relationships that do not require constant emotional spikes to feel real. And a life that is no longer driven by unconscious repetition. And this does not mean the person becomes passive, dull, or emotionless. It means their sense of aliveness shifts from intensity to depth, from chaos to clarity, from survival to choice. And the moment that shift begins, the hidden psychology of loving chaos finally loosens its grip. Because the person no longer confuses familiarity with safety, no longer mistakes emotional storms for passion, no longer seeks disorder just to feel real. They begin to choose their reality consciously instead of reenacting it unconsciously. And that is the true turning point. Not when chaos disappears from life, but when it is no longer where the heart feels at home.